Hello, my name is Dr. Andrew Jenkins from TU Delft in the Netherlands. Today I will be presenting our paper Designing the Future to Predict the Future, an urban-first approach to co-creating zero-carbon neighbourhoods. As we all know, the goal by 2050 is to reduce carbon emissions to net zero. We have made steady progress on this front, however the speed of reduction will need to improve further if we are to achieve this goal. This will require improvements in technologies and a reduction in the cost of those technologies. The solution, however, is not purely technological and will require individual behavioural change. Anthropogenic climate change is the cumulative effect of 200 years of human decision. The solution is therefore also cumulative. Simple behavioural change can have a large impact if we make those decisions together. Examples of such carbon savings include becoming car-free, eating a vegetarian diet, avoiding air travel where possible, and buying renewable electricity from the grid. Individuals need to be made aware of their role in global change, and this needs to be driven by education and engagement. The natural ecotone between people, community, and carbon reduction is a zero-carbon community. This was first explored by Ebenezer Howard in 1989 with the publication of his book, Garden Cities of Tomorrow. These ideas resurfaced during the 1960s and 70s and were later formalised by Richard Register in 1987 with the publication of his book, Berkeley Eco-City. These early ideas focused primarily on compact development and mixed land use, the reprioritisation of pedestrians, the increased use of public transport, the mitigation of ecological damage, and the development of ecologically and socially just economic models. More recently, the idea of the eco-city has been diluted with a sole focus on reducing carbon emissions. Very few projects today encompass the early principles brought about by Ebenezer Howard and Richard Register. The UK's first ecotown is a prime example of this. Although the development is zero carbon by definition, the development has a number of failings. There are no open space for families to play, no cycle routes to and from the main town, no on-site conveniences to minimise car journeys, and basically no thought for how people will live out their lives. The development could have saved many more tonnes of carbon if it had considered how the development might change behaviour in the future. The built environment determines how people live their lives. Therefore, new holistic design methodologies are required to develop the zero carbon developments of the future. These zero carbon developments must be resilient, low energy, low waste, socially rich, ecologically diverse, economically robust, fit for purpose, and engaging places to live. This was the principle behind the Citizen Roadshow, which combined local stakeholders with global experts to co-create the future zero carbon communities. The idea was to work with local stakeholders from the very beginning and use zero carbon development as a fulcrum to be able to improve the quality of life. The methodology also used an interesting urban-first approach. The urban-first approach champions the role of urban design to deliver change and works in collaboration with carbon and energy analysis. The methodology starts with carbon, urban, and energy analyses, which are informed by guided tours and talks with local residents and stakeholders. Urban explorations are then made with local stakeholders through a series of urban design workshops. And these urban interventions are then evaluated through carbon and energy analyses. Energy interventions are then developed and the carbon mitigation of all interventions are calculated. At the end, a city vision is finalised and presented to local stakeholders and the local municipality. Taking Roeselare in Belgium as a case study, the roadies were taken on a tour around the town and they met several stakeholders who gave short talks about their community. It was clear to see, whilst we were walking around the neighbourhood, a series of key urban challenges. This included disconnections both from the city and nature, low building density, periodic flooding, the lack of a defined centre, poor legibility, and low quality of public space. The energy use of the city was also calculated at 2.2 gigawatt hours per annum, with an emissions factor of 0.181 kilograms of CO2 per kilowatt hour. This showed that the carbon footprint of the city was over 5 times greater than its geographical area, which formed the basis of the brief for the project. In order to reduce the flooding of the neighbourhood, the culvert was widened and sustainable urban drainage was also implemented, along with a nature trail along the newly widened culvert. A neighbourhood cycle route was also proposed with a canopy which included food production and energy production. A neighbourhood centre was also developed with commercial opportunities, as well as further growing space for food, much needed green open space for local residents, and a boating lake to further attenuate water transitioning into the culvert. Technoturps were developed to minimise the risk of flood water to properties, and agriculture was proposed throughout. Energy strategies were developed. In this case, the electricity design for the city included 2 rings of PVs, an outer ring of wind turbines, and a series of 100% electric communities. There was also a high temperature strategy and low temperature strategies which were developed for the city. As you can see here, the carbon reduction of each intervention were also calculated, resulting in an overall carbon reduction in 87%, with the emissions that could not be mitigated being mitigated through the planting of a large forest on the outskirts of the city. The Citizen Roadshow was holistic in nature. It gave citizens the opportunity to shape their own future, which improved the impact of those urban design interventions and the advocacy of those who would benefit from them in the future. It helped stakeholders to build a lexicon, which would allow for more detailed and in-depth discussions with the municipalities in the future. And it also strengthened communities by bringing them together. With a focus on improving life, the stakeholders were extremely happy with the design interventions proposed. And that meant from the outset that they were fit for purpose for those that would play them out in the future. The main deliverable to the Citizen Roadshow is that it proved that living a sustainable lifestyle can be really interesting and not just about giving up your car. Thank you very much for your time, and I welcome any questions if there is time to do so.